And it got me thinking, what are some of those great films that are about making movies? And I thought, let's try to think about what some examples might be in the context of the Criterion Collection. Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. The other day I was watching the really great film from Wes Craven, which is called Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's one of the films in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. It's a really great film. One of the things that's so great about it is the way in which it is a film about a film, making a film. And it got me thinking, what are some of those great films that are about making movies? And I thought, let's try to think about what some examples might be in the context of the Criterion Collection. This is a topic, I think, which has been mentioned and discussed, I think, many times over. So I don't think I'm going to be adding anything new to the conversation per se. But I thought it might be fun to do a video where I could just try to quickly come up with a few titles that are in the Criterion Collection that are movies about making movies. And I'll try to limit it to, say, feature-length films. I won't focus on documentaries. Documentaries, of course, are a great way to talk about making movies, and there are so many. Too many to talk about in one sitting, in one video. I thought maybe let's think about narrative films, films that are narratives or that are purporting to be narrative fiction films that in one way or another have the craft of filmmaking itself as a subject matter point of the film. If you discover that I'm not mentioning something, please feel free to let me know in the comments section below, and you can add to the list of titles that we can say are feature films or narrative films or purporting to be narrative films about making movies. I, of course, will be so happy to read those comments. I enjoy receiving your comments, my dear friends, and so please feel free to leave comments and add to the list of movies about making movies in the Criterion Collection. If that's okay with you, I'm gonna just try to think on the spot here. I don't have a list planned, so I'm going to think on the spot. I'm going to go to the shelves. I'm going to try to pick those out, and I don't have anything pre-planned here, so I'm going to pick those out based on what I think might work for today's theme, and then I'll be back. So hold on for 1 second while I go to the shelves and try to pick out some movies about making movies in the Criterion Collection. While I'm doing this, my dear friends, please, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. If you enjoy these conversations about movies, please hit the subscribe button. You are all so welcome to this channel anytime you want to talk about movies, you want to give me some recommendations about films to watch. I would be so flattered if you wouldn't mind subscribing. Don't worry if you don't want to. I don't mean to add any pressure to your lives, and I apologize if you feel like I've done so. But if you are interested in subscribing, oh my goodness, I would so love to see you. So if you're interested, my dear friends, please subscribe to this channel, but please don't feel pressure to do so if you don't want to. Robert Altman has been on my mind lately. I've been rewatching Robert Altman's films. I love his works. Many of his films can be said to be quite meta. Quite a few that have to do with actually the act of making movies. I could have picked any one of a certain group of Robert Altman works, but I had to go with this one. This is Robert Altman's The Player. This is probably one of the greatest Robert Altman films. It is also one of the greatest films about movie making in Hollywood from a kind of acerbic, cynical point of view. It's very funny. The cameos are voluminous and wonderful. That's part of the surprise of this film, as well as so many celebrated moments and shots that are, again, about the craft of movie making. It works wonders in this film, the Robert Altman film, The Player. Next, I've chosen two films from one of my favorite filmmakers, who is David Lynch. And the first is Spine Number 779. Here is Mulholland Drive. This is one of the greatest films. The key to it, the bluish key to it, has to do in large part with the enigma and mystery and horror that is Hollywood, the way in which identity can be shifted and thwarted and lost. There are some really brilliant scenes about the act of movie making, about acting. Oh my goodness. Movie making at its finest when you watch a David Lynch film like Mulholland Drive. That's not the only David Lynch film I wanted to touch upon. There's another film which is at spy number 1175, and it is another work which is dealing with Los Angeles and California, Inland Empire. This is also a sprawling epic, and one key component of this is the craft of movie making on the set and the director working with actors, although there is still here too this idea of losing oneself in the role, the kind of labyrinth of mind games that could occur. It's another great film. Don't ask me, ask Jeremy. This is the great work, which is Inland Empire. I have to mention Jean-Luc Godard's film, Contempt. This is spy number 171. This is a DVD set, an old school DVD set, which has unfortunately fallen out of print in the Criterion collection. And as far as I know right now, it's not available to watch on the Criterion channel, unfortunately. It is about movie making. It is also not about movie making. In many ways, movie making is at its core and center, but also it is a backdrop for a kind of examination of essentially the disintegration of a relationship. Filmmaking, or maybe the heartless drive that is large-scale movie making, shall we say, in the eyes of artists like Godard and others, might be said to be a kind of catalyst for that disintegration. Let me also mention another Godard film. This one I know is in print as of the time of this video, and it is this work, which is King Lear. King Lear is at spy number 1249. This film is maybe not just focusing in, it's not merely filmmaking and not merely photography, but it's also the act of a creation in the context of filmmaking, art, theater, and plays and Shakespeare. So I just wanted to bring this up as well as a kind of the layers of identity and the potential for chaos, are really nice and surprising entries of the Criterion catalog in this year 2025. It's a really great one. I highly recommend this. Jean-Luc Godard's King Lear. I have to mention this. This is also mentioned a lot in the context of these types of discussions, movies about making movies. This is, thankfully, this is in the Criterion collection, and it's one of the greats from Brian De Palma, 1981. Spy number 562. I gotta talk about the film Blowout. It is a harrowing De Palma thriller that is so emotionally charged with the great performances by John Travolta, Nancy Allen, John Lithgow, and others. It really drives this, the propulsion of this. The De Palma cinematic tricks are utterly amazing. Not only do we see those tricks in action and they call attention to themselves, but my goodness, they call the attention to themselves in a movie about making movies that calls attention to the act of sound manipulation and effects and the like. This is in many ways, one of the ultimate De Palma experiences. A great classic where movie making is at its core, and it really helps push the film forward to its brilliant climax. Now that's a scream. I have to talk about this one too. This is Spy number 12, and this was recently re-released into the Criterion collection in a really nice 4K UHD plus Blu-ray release, which is what I have here. This is Spinal Tap, Rob Reiner's film. This is Spinal Tap. This is in many ways setting the template for what one might call the mockumentary, faux documentary, a film that purports to be a documentary, but is in fact a kind of wonderful illusory fiction that has just been woven up out of magical cinematic thin air. But it has the trappings and it has the traits of looking like a documentary. So there's this air of a sense of wanting to believe what's going on, but the more you go down that rabbit hole of this is Spinal Tap, the more you realize, my goodness, this is just too much to be believed. And that's part of the fun. of this. So it actually turns the whole notion of documentary filmmaking and filmmaking in general kind of on its head to maximum comic effect. This is Spinal Tap. This is such a great film, although I understand that at the moment of this video it is out of print, and I don't think it's on the Criterion channel either, so you're going to have to try to find other ways to watch it outside of Criterion to watch this. But if you're going to talk about movies about making movies, and you've got to talk about this film. The film is from François Truffaut, and it is called in English Day for Night. The French title is La Nuit Américaine. Now, please pardon me for my bad pronunciation, but this is such a delight. It is done in this wonderful tongue-in-cheek way, but also a very moving, emotional way. But filmmaking is at its core. You actually see it come alive. It is a wonderful, marvelous, and quite clever look at the world of making movies in the context of the drama of the film, and also through the eyes of one of the great filmmakers who ever lived, and that is François Truffaut. I want to mention this film, which is from 1941. This is Spy Number 118, and this is from Preston Sturges, and it has Joel McCrea and Veronica Lake. This is the great film, Sullivan's Travels. In a way, it is about movie making. It is also about, it's a journey film. It's a film about making discoveries in a kind of comedic drama fashion. But it is, yes, undoubtedly a film that, at its core, about, character from the movie making world trying to find a certain type of discovery. A great rapport between the two leads here, Veronica Lake and Joel McCrea. So it is a film about making movies, and based upon that, characters make some very meaningful and significant discoveries along the way. It is a classic film. I don't speak about Preston Sturges films enough on this YouTube channel, so I wanted to put this in there as well as being a great example of a movie about, yes, making movies. Here's a film that is in the set at Spy Number 1036. The set's at Spy Number 1036. There are multi-films within this one set, and the set is called Bruce Lee, His Greatest Hits. And the film I wanted to mention here is the film which is the final film in terms of the year chronology in this set, the final feature film, which is called Game of Death. Game of Death was released after the untimely passing of the legend that is Bruce Lee. There was certain footage that was shot before Bruce Lee's passing, but the entire film wasn't completed. There was, among other things, the question about what to do with this sitting footage and whether or not it could be released in some form. Well, ultimately what had happened was that a film was fashioned around the footage using stand-ins and doubles, and the rest, as they say, is a kind of another interesting turn in the history of Bruce Lee cinema, Game of Death. Undoubtedly, one of the key components of the film Game of Death is the establishment of the movie-making set. The main character in the film is the actor who is portraying the roles of Bruce Lee that we had seen in many of the other films of Bruce Lee. That then gives the filmmakers the ability to then insert footage and scenes from past Bruce Lee films. The actor is shown in the movie Game of Death. The actor is shown acting scenes that are scenes from previous films. It becomes a way to cushion and fashion this film that is built around the existing footage of Bruce Lee. It's a kind of MacGuffin, if you will, for allowing us to see the footage of Bruce Lee's fights in the pagoda. But again, if we're talking about films about making films, I can certainly put this one on the list. This film is at Spy Number 288, and this filmmaker is Orson Welles. The film is F for Fake, and I put this here because we can look at this in the idea of the work itself as a being spotlight on itself, this idea about illusions and storytelling and magic. And oh yes, filmmaking is, I think, a very interesting and crucial part of that. I've got to include this as part of the conversation at least, and it's a great film as well. If you've never seen F for Fake, you've got to check it out. But I I would suggest maybe not reading up on this and maybe knowing as little as possible before entering into the world of Orson Welles' F for Fake. It makes it all the more fun, actually. So let me introduce into the conversation Spy Number 701 from 1966. The filmmaker is Ingmar Bergman. And the name of the work is Persona. I guess Persona, maybe on its surface, actually, I was gonna say maybe on its surface it might not look like a film about filmmaking, but in fact it is in many ways about surfaces, and it's also about the surface-like nature of the act of filmmaking itself, all the way down to the physical nature of the film. So in fact, maybe on a surface level nature, this is very much a film about filmmaking. This is one of the most brilliant and one of the scariest films, actually, and you could combine that with a sense of intimacy, also a sense of sexuality, which oftentimes, sometimes is very graphically portrayed, cinematically volatile mix indeed. And again, at its core, or one of its cores, is, I would argue, the act of filmmaking. So, films about filmmaking, to a certain degree, I'd love to include Bergman's Persona. This is Spy Number 58 from 1960. The director is Michael Powell. The name of the film is Peeping Tom. Now, this is a film about the act of filmmaking, in a manner of speaking. The act of filmmaking that is can be said to be subversive, that could be said to be twisted, that could be said to be quite invasive, also very shocking. The idea of the gaze as being a psychological portrait, also as being a weapon, as well as being a really frightening and quite intense thriller, drama, horror film to a certain degree. And let me end here with a film that I think is very celebrated in many ways, one of which is it's celebrated as being a film about filmmaking, or a film about the act of creativity and imagination. And that is the film at Spy Number 140. The filmmaker is Federico Fellini from 1963. The film is 8.5. This is one of my favorite films in the Criterion collection. It's an oft-used cliche, I know, but it's definitely true for me in this film, 8.5. Every time I see this film, my dear friends, I discover something new. Really, I do. I discover something new I didn't see before in the frame, a detail that flies from the corner somewhere, or maybe some link between the characters, very Fellini-esque way. And that is also linked with Fellini and Guido, the main character, as the artist who is suffering from writer's block or filmmaker's block, not knowing how to create, and maybe being forced by certain external forces beyond his control, and maybe sacrificing his artistic integrity for the sake of commercial success, etc., etc., etc. And we see this played out in so many scenarios that are very much tender and sincere, also very much entering into the world of the surreal and carnivalesque. It is a magnificent ride, I must say. Again, one of my favorite films. This is the Fellini film, 8.5. Okay, I think I would like to end there, at least now, for the Criterion collection. I know I've probably missed so many more, I apologize, but that was just off the top of my head. Impromptu list making. I do again want to shout out very quickly the whole reason why I wanted to do this video in the first place. Shout out to Wes Craven and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I invite you, my dear friends, to add to the conversation, to contribute to the conversation. I love reading your comments, so please feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, I am very happy to hear what it is you have to say. And with that, my dear friends, let me end it there. So until the next video, please continue to be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies, including films in the Criterion collection, including films outside the Criterion collection, and beyond. Beyond. So until the next video, my dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers. And please stick around to the very end of the video where I'm going to take a title from the shelf and pick out a title from the Criterion collection that I'm going to watch later today. So if you're interested, stick around to the very end of the video. But otherwise, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers. Thanks for waiting, my dear friends. I've picked out the title. It's at spine number 201. And this is from the filmmaker Vittorio De Sica from 1952. And the name of the work is Umberto D.